I've learned how to, hi, how are you? I can do that, you know, I can do that today. He was mad at that level.
And his editor.
And I think I have outed him today. Patriarchy is a mindset. So it can be very prevalent even amongst women, you know. The film industry is hugely hierarchical, not just on the lines of women, but also along the lines of caste and class, and of course gender. If they have come to me, they already know that I'm not like a massive A-lister who's pulling in the crowds. They know that already, you know, they've chosen me for a reason. This is terrible, just smile and say it's fine. Yeah.
इंडियन सिनेमा में शायद ही कुछ ऐसे आर्टिस्ट्स हैं जिन्होंने इंडी में भी और मेन स्ट्रीम में भी दोनों में अपना मार्क छोड़ा है एंड ऑब्वियसली एज अ फिल्म क्रिटिक दैट मेक्स इट इम्पॉसिबल फॉर मी टू नॉट बी इन लव विद दीज आर्टिस्ट्स अक्रॉस हर फिल्मोग्राफी कोंकणा सेन शर्मा के इतने सारे कैरेक्टर्स हैं दैट हैव रेजोनेटेड विद मी ऑन अ पर्सनल लेवल एज अ जर्नलिस्ट एज एन अर्बन मिलेनियल एज अ वुमन विद अ रिच इनर लाइफ एज एन एंग्री पर्सन एज अ conflicted introvert and so many more. Watching her work, it has sometimes felt like I know her very deeply, even though we've never done an interview together or ever really interacted beyond just being polite. Which is why when we met at Mami a few years ago, and she told me that she watches my work and she feels like she knows me, not only was I stupidly flattered, but it reaffirmed my belief कि कुछ तो है शायद एक shared experience, even if it is as silly as एक औरत ही औरत को समझ सकती है. I am so grateful to Konkona for taking time out of a packed schedule to have coffee with me today. And I don't know how we're going to fit everything I want to talk about into this one interview, but jaan laga ke main koshish karungi. And for that, we definitely need our coffee. So Konkona, tell us, what are we doing today? First, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Sucharita.
Nice, no? That
was?
was?
Yeah, so lovely, so lovely. I mean,
तो आज बताओ हम coffee. अच्छा, you love your coffee, na?
I love my coffee. I'm usually a person who drinks like 3 cups of black, sweet coffee every morning.
Like regular chini and everything.
No, with
Special chini.
with sugar-free type thing, Splenda. It's not good.
Yeah, I also love.
I've made my peace with it. I like it bitter, hot, and sweet.
3 cups of coffee I also have to have in the morning, and then my dentist later on yells at me like, you're drinking too much coffee. Stop drinking coffee. But so किस किस्म की कॉफी पीती हैं आप रोज सुबह?
So you know, when I was young, I started drinking coffee actually when I was about like probably 15 or something, and I used to that time, you know, I used to peto that
Nescafe.
instant coffee with milk.
क्या कहते हैं उसे? डालगोना?
हाँ,
ऐसा फट करके?
वो तो बाद में आया lockdown वाली. But I'm saying like since the time I was a kid, I've been doing that, but now I can't bear instant coffee anymore. Because वो तो हो गया, those days are over. Now we get great coffee. I have my various equipment. There's a mocha pot which is brewed at home. Then I have a French press for my shoots. There's an AeroPress Go for travel.
Okay.
And I'm really into the coffee situation.
तो आपके कप में कॉफी है, मेरे कप में कॉफी है नहीं.
मैं आपके लिए बनाऊंगी ना.
आप बना दो ना प्लीज.
हाँ जी.
एक कॉफी बना मिले. हाँ,
गरम पानी तो लगेगा इसमें.
ये रहा, इसमें है गरम पानी. एकदम खौलता हुआ गरम है, तो थोड़ा संभाल के हम इसे उठाएंगे.
ओह, देखते हैं.
बट अभी आप किस चीज की शूट कर रही हैं आजकल?
So I'm actually shooting for Anurag Basu's Metro, the sequel, Metro In the Gunj.
बहुत बड़ी कास्ट, बहुत सारे
बहुत
actors.
बड़ी कास्ट है.
So is it like an anthology of short things, or is it just one
No,
full?
I think it's like last time. It's an ensemble piece with different stories, interrelated characters. So I'm not the same person from the previous film.
हाँ, new character.
हाँ.
तो यूनिवर्स अलग है ये.
यूनिवर्स थोड़ी सी अलग है, बट सेम भी है.
सेम भी है यूनिवर्स. अभी हमारी अली फजल से भी मुलाकात हुई थी इसी शो के लिए. So I just shot with him only. Last episode was with him only, and he's doing so well. Him and Richa together. In fact,
I'm so happy and so excited about their baby.
Their baby, and they're now producing films.
Yeah,
they're making the Sundance में जीत के आ गई है उनकी picture. Girls will be girls.
And Cannes, Sundance, you know, it's just so inspirational for all of us, na?
I have a little message for you from Richa, because she's a big fan. When I told her that I'm meeting Konkona today, so she has sent me a little voice note. Can I play it for you?
I hope she's done an accent.
Wait 1 second.
My question to Konkona is, I find that when you act, of course, the last thing I've seen of yours is Killer Soup, which I loved very much and sent you a voice note from. It seems really effortless. And I was speaking to one of your actors, and I won't say who, they from the stuff that you've directed, they said that you're very particular about what you would like them to do. So I want to ask you, how much of your own process as an actor is improvisation or spontaneity, and how much, like, how is that different from you as a director? I just want to understand your process, because you're, of course, acing both, and you're a national treasure. And I'm fangirling over you on Sucharita's interview. But yeah, you're really the best we have. Sending you a lot of love.
I'm not ready for this level of love in the morning. I'm going to cry.
When I told her I'm meeting her, she was like, I love her. Can I ask, send her a question?
Her all. So sweet on
Isn't
her.
that nice?
I thought
She
you
was-
must have said, "एक question दे दो" and all.
हाँ, क्योंकि हम यही करते हैं ना, जा जाके एक क्वेश्चन दे दो ना प्लीज.
No, I saw this in another interview.
Yeah.
Very nice, where the last guest
Yeah.
leaves a question for the next guest.
How sweet, na? Like
In one
make
of
a
these
chain.
podcasts. Yeah, it was such a nice
But she
thing.
is actually a big fan, and she said to me
She's so
that
sweet.
she's
I'm
loved
also
you
a big
since
fan.
Amu.
Yeah, I'm so glad she's seen Amu. Not a lot of people have.
I love that.
It's a
I
lovely film.
love
I think
that film.
Shani's best.
Yeah, please, I'll answer her question also.
I
Improvisation
must
as an
answer
actor
the question.
versus
Yeah,
as a director.
this is a tough one, because the thing is that as an actor, I've done so many films now. I've done 50, 55 plus films as an actor. So I find that, because I've been acting since I was so young, I've been doing it for more than 2 decades, so obviously. But as an actor, I'm quite flexible in the sense that, one has to really adapt to the systems that different directors have different approaches. There are some who do a lot of workshop, a lot of prep, a lot of rehearsals, and I love that. I love the process of prep. And there are others who want to just go, and see what happens over there. They're not very particular which line exactly you're saying. So it's different, and I'm happy to adapt, and I don't have an issue. However, as a director, what happened, and director means I've directed 1.5 films, but still, if you insist on calling me director, then I'll say that I think, firstly, as a director, both the films have been made with very limited resources.
Correct.
Because they're not like, big budget, big star.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, and it's not like like a mainstream kind of a format or material in that sense.
Yeah.
So the resources are always very limited.
Yeah.
When resources are limited, your main resource is time. So then, you have very limited time to finish everything. Like Death in the Gunj, we had to finish in 30 days, and we did.
Come what may.
Yeah, and then that Last Stories, we've had to finish it in 7 days. One day we were shooting for 20 hours plus. So
Hilarious.
It's crazy. So then, and the thing is, I usually, at least in these two, I have, because I'm also involved in the writing, and I'm, in writing. Pooja Tolani is my co-writer in this one, and Disha Rindani, who was on the other one. But I'm very particular. Because, I have the world, the characters and the story, and, it's like the film is there in my head.
Yeah.
And so I have to, so I can't improvise really. It depends on the scene. If I know that it's meant to be a little like a meandering conversation, it's different. But I have to, it's usually like, no, I have to reach this, this emotion has to be hit on this scene. I mean, for example, you have to feel the shade of humiliation in this scene here, so that later again you can go do this.
This as a director, you're thinking.
Yeah. So, and then I don't have time कि ठीक है आप अपनी तरह से करो फिर हम देखेंगे हम अपनी तरह से करेंगे. There's no time to do that.
budget नहीं है हमारे पास.
So then it's like, no, we have to do it like this. So what I do is I do rehearsals and workshops beforehand so we can iron these things out.
Yeah.
Like I remember that confrontational scene in Last Story's Mirror.
Yeah.
That is so plotted, so thank you. It's plotted so meticulously between Pooja Tolani and I that when Amruta and Tilotama came and they were doing it and they were so amazing and they just brought it to life. So initially in the first couple of rehearsals, they were like, okay, what if you say this, what if you say that? But, I was like, both Pooja and I think we were like, if you say this here, then, we have put this line here so that she can counter like this.
So every cut,
everything is
frame.
plotted. And I almost sometimes, at least in these two, I don't know what will happen as with more experience as a director down the line, maybe I won't be so particular, but I almost have the edit.
In your head.
In my head,
कि cut कहाँ पर होएगा, close कहाँ जाएगा, wide कहाँ जाएगा.
Planning हो चुकी है ना.
तो good ना.
Yeah, no, maybe later even more better things will happen. But yeah, so I feel a little apologetic that, you know, such great actors, and then you're like, no, 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 just say this. But, you know, usually I think that what's happened is that we've ironed these things out before the shoot, but I don't know, ask them. Or maybe they'll complain. Actually, first I want to say that the coffee should ideally be airtight, but now we obviously for this we have put it like this. And the other thing is that actually you should warm. This is a lovely travel French press.
उसको पहले गरम करना पड़ता है.
हल्की सी, if you put हल्का सा, if you put a little bit of hot water and then chuck it, is very good. No, no, now let's not mess it up.
अच्छा ठीक है.
I'm just showing,
I am
telling
also,
you.
by the way, instant coffee is not allowed in my house also. My husband is like, I will walk. Don't bring instant coffee into this house. And cheap pizza. Those are his two things that we are not. Cheap pizza.
Cheap pizza.
मैं पिज्जा खाऊंगा तो अच्छा खाऊंगा, नहीं तो मैं नहीं खाऊंगा पिज्जा.
I agree.
अभी डेथ इन द गंज के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं थोड़ी सी. तो ये जो कहानी लिखी थी आपके फादर ने लिखी थी, जिससे अडैप्ट होके आपने फिल्म बनाई. And he also wrote another short that became another one of your films. That was Ek Thi Dayan.
That's right.
You know, and everybody obviously talks about Aparna Sen's influence on your early life and then acting life. Talk to me about your father's influence, because he was a different breed of writers and entertainers and educators that doesn't exist anymore.
I'm so glad you asked.
Mukul Sharma ke bare mein.
Mukul Sharma, my father. I'm so happy because usually I don't get a chance to talk
Talk
about
about him, I know.
Yeah, and my mother though, like, I mean, people are also more aware, you know, and it is true that she's had the maximum influence on me. I've learned the most from her.
Very famous also.
She's a constant source of inspiration. But I haven't spoken much about my father, and you know, he was someone who's, you know, into humor, science and futurism.
Yes.
And these are things which I'm also therefore really into. He edited the first science magazine in India called 2001 Science Today. He used to write this brain teaser column in called Mind Spot in TUI for years, I think. And he has his own little cult following.
From 1983 to 2005, I think, that column ran.
Really?
I think like that long.
Your research is meticulous. I don't remember the dates. Well done.
But no, because I was reading when the column came to a close, people were writing mails, like handwritten mail ki, mat band karo, kyun band kar rahe ho?
And I still meet people today, you know, like engineers or, you know, people like that who are interested in puzzles and brain teasers and things like that, who still talk about that stuff.
Speaking of journalism, there's a line from a review I want to read to you, and you tell me what film this could be. It's not your film. So tell me what film you think this is, okay?
Okay.
Whoever said the latest blockbuster offering from the gang at Disney was not meant for widely differing age groups was talking right through his or her batutas. Svengali for top hat. Any guesses? It's a tough one.
It's a very tough one. I don't know what you're thinking that I know all these things.
Now let me read the first line of this.
Yeah.
Review. Okay, I started with the second line. The reason I bring up the subject of my younger daughter Konkona is because we saw it together and both came to the conclusion that Hakuna Matata was one of the coolest phrases we had come across in a long time. This is Mukul Sharma's review of The Lion King.
Yeah.
This was published 29 years ago.
Yeah, I was very young and I thought Hakuna Matata is cool, but I mean... Yeah.
This is a photo of Harrison Ford. This is another review.
Yeah, that's not my dad.
But because I was reading about your dad and I found this review and he talks about you in the first line.
Yeah, that's so sweet. You know, he's a mad fellow. He used to sometimes do film reviews. I forget for which publication. Maybe it was Femina. I don't know.
This is from Femina.
Yeah, and then even because he was in the UAE for some time, even I think for Khalij Times he used to do. And once, I can't tell you what he did.
What he did?
वो ना टाइम नहीं था to write the review or something, I don't know what, and he made up the film. There was no such film. He made up a film, he made up the review and he published it. Oh no! He was mad at that level.
And his editor
didn't clock it. And I think I have outed him today.
His editor didn't clock it.
And you know what the film was called? No, they didn't. Because he was too smart. He was so smart that he was a very good bullshitter.
That's hilarious.
And so everything he says you have to take with a pinch of salt. And the name of the film was The Janus Drive. It was apparently a sci-fi film called The Janus Drive.
Which didn't exist.
Which doesn't exist.
But
so
you remember
I should make it.
Being a teenager and going to movies with your dad?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I remember watching... I used to go visit him once a year. My parents split when I was like 6 or 7. And lovely relationships with all my step-parents, very lucky. And we went to watch... Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, 1994 or 95.
I remember standing up and screaming in the theatre. I remember he's the one who made me watch Barton Fink, my first Coen Brothers film, and I was really young. I must have been like 11 or 12 watching this mad film. Like Barton Fink is not their most accessible film. So we used to watch a lot of films together. We also watched a lot of we used to watch Twilight Zone and Quantum Leap and all those fun programs back in the day. And he would record them for me because at that time they didn't used to be playing in India. So he used to record the stuff for me.
But would you say that your father has had an influence on the filmmaker you are now and the artist you are now?
Yes, I think so. I think so because it was more than anything else. I think his way of thinking, like Death in the Gunj. That story, I didn't actually read it. He used to tell. Both my parents are fantastic storytellers, and my dad, who I've always called Momo, his name is Mukul, but his nickname is Momo, and we all called him Momo.
Yeah.
And he would tell the best stories, hilarious stories, and also sometimes dark and delicious ones. And this Death in the Gunj wala was a dark and delicious story. He used to tell me about Shuntu, and how this came true. He was one of the plancheteers, like
Which
that.
one? Tell me.
So I have actually amalgamated a couple of characters and made it into I think Gulshan's character.
Yeah.
So
Nandu.
so people, Nandu. So people who my family members who watched it, they're so confused because it's part memory, part fiction, and different people's accounts are different because nobody's memory is not a trustworthy thing.
Yeah.
People just don't remember things.
And McCluskey
They
Ganj के
remember
बारे में तो
feelings.
लिखता भी नहीं कोई ज़्यादा.
कोई नहीं लिखता है वो information मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है.
Now, Shutu, अब हम बात शुरू कर ही चुके हैं. It's one of the very nicely sort of to say that he's a nicely written character is sort of reducing it. No, you've written it beautifully. The source material is beautiful. The acting is wonderful. The conclusion of the character is wonderful. But it's a very tricky male character to write because the traditional ideas of masculinity हैं वो उस पे apply नहीं करते हैं. In fact, उसकी conflict ये है that he doesn't know which ideals to follow, how he should be a man, how he should be a son. And in fact, there's a very difficult scene between Vikrant Massey and Kalki, the scene where Mimi sort of, in a drunken state forces herself upon him and he doesn't know what is happening, but then he knows what is happening and that changes his idea of himself.
Yeah. I wouldn't use the word forces
No.
herself.
Okay, so talk to me about that.
But maybe seduces this young man.
Yeah.
For her own emotional needs.
He's very confused. But it's a very
Yeah.
tricky character to etch
But
out.
what's so strange is that I only felt like because I never knew the real Shuntu, but I always knew this story of this, the self-fulfillment of a false prophecy. So it's a very circular kind of a structure of that, you do the planchet, it's a fake planchet, and then, events occur, and then you make it come true. Like, what is happening? So for me, and I love psychological dramas, and I like to, show ki something is happening, but actually something else is happening. At least these were the things that I was trying in my head.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give a sense of the supernatural, but also explain it, as in that's why we show the thread and the noise that they make and things like that. I wanted to understand why this happened, because I don't know why it happened. So. And the thing is that, I just infused a lot of myself into Shuntu. So I think I feel like I'm Shuntu.
Yeah.
But it's just that he was in his early 20s. So
Yeah.
I'm much older. So I've gone past that stage and I wish that Shuntu and all the Shuntus of the world, could give them that world, that support, that space, and they could also give themselves that time, to overcome that.
Yeah.
Though that's not always possible to just overcome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just explore that. Also because I find it very interesting family dynamics and family politics in that sense. Because, this, the casual cruelty, I remember calling it the everyday casual cruelty of everyday life. The interpersonal dynamics, the power equations between family members is, in a way, it's being played out within a family structure. And it's actually a larger societal structure. But this is a, microcosm or whatever it's called. Because, even within families, you see that some people get away with more.
Yeah.
Some people can steal less.
Yeah.
Some things are tolerated from some members but not others. Everybody knows how to behave in front of whom and how. We know what should be said. And sometimes when you don't stick to that, those established patterns, then there's conflict. You know, those kind of things.
और हर फैमिली में अलग अलग होता है. जो कभी किसी फैमिली में होता है कि किसी ने कोई ज्यादा पैसे कमा रहा है तो उनको ज्यादा बात करने को मिलता है. Somebody who's not earning that much money in their life, they're not like no one's taking you seriously.
So sad.
Do you observe these things closely when you meet people? Are you a people watcher?
I think so. I think so. And I think I was much more when I was younger and growing up and in my formative years. And I never anyway wanted to become an actor director. So
yeah, you've said
I was
that.
much more, and until now I'm very happy to blend, you know. I would love to be just invisible blend and observe.
तो आपको नहीं चाहिए attention extra, which is
मुझे
not
नहीं
something an
चाहिए.
actor usually
मुझे
says.
नहीं चाहिए, but I've learned.
Yeah.
I've learned how to, hi, how are you? I can do that, you know. I can do that today. I can't always do it very well, but mostly I've learned how to do it.
Do you find yourself doing that a lot though in a city like Bombay? Having to get out of the house and like meeting people.
But I to say
and
no
doing
to
the
everything.
thing.
That's
Mana
the
kar
other
dete,
thing.
na?
No, I have to for self-preservation.
Yeah.
And also, you know, the thing is nowadays I find like, for example, in my friends, like I have a son who's 13.
Yeah.
But most people don't have children
Yeah.
nowadays, which is great and fine and good for them. And, you know, so I just find that, you know, even if I didn't have a career, I'd anyway be very busy. I have a dog, I have a full household, I have a son, you know, I have to manage it. I don't know, between my plumber and my electrician, they're keeping me very busy. I'm the production manager of my own home and I find it exhausting.
How
and
lovely.
boring.
I find that on a personal level, when I'm writing reviews of anything, ek to I celebrate women storytellers and filmmakers because
Yeah,
the
which is so
opportunities,
lovely.
women telling women's
you.
stories,
Yeah.
opportunities are limited, and the opportunities that we are getting and the shoulders we stand upon must celebrate, must congratulate each other. Like why not congratulate each other? But when I'm writing reviews now, Konkona, a lot of the feedback that I get from just people watching is that why do you bring your female perspective into watching films? And I'm like, that's because that's who I am. I am a woman, and everything I say, do, that's how I interact with the world. And I find that if we had more female film critics and more female journalists, that sentiment might change. What do you think about that? Do you think we need more women writing about cinema?
Interesting, because usually we're always talking about we need more female filmmakers and producers
Which we
and
do,
stuff like
without
that.
a-
Of
without
course,
a doubt,
yes.
yeah.
But I'm glad you brought this up. Firstly, I think that, you know, like when we studied criticism, like, and very briefly I'm just saying, like there are many lenses through which you can look at, like, you know, there's Marxist criticism and then there's a feminist one, or, you know, there were a few others which I'm forgetting just now. So, you know, there is a lens with which you see the world, and I think that's a very important lens.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there are different perspectives, and what somebody from a certain community watching a film would be able to provide,
Yeah.
you know, others who are perhaps not from that community would not have that perspective, and that's, you know, can be expansive and broadening. So I definitely think that you should stick to your female lens.
Hai na?
For sure.
Lage raho.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's, of course, there should be enough women journalists as well. But you know, even the women journalists who are there, like, and I say this about filmmakers as well, is that, you know, patriarchy is a mindset. So it can be very prevalent even amongst women, you know, and in fact, it's very common for especially older women of the family to propagate these values, you know,
Yeah.
and ways of thinking. So you do have some very aggressive and patriarchal filmmakers who are women.
Yeah.
And you do have like a handful of very sensitive, progressive men
Yes.
who write great female characters, which is rare.
That's what I'm saying. I was talking to Anvita Dutt a couple of episodes ago, and we were talking about this, that women telling women's stories doesn't mean that only women should be telling women's stories or only women can be telling women's stories. It's that when a woman gets to tell her own story, that's what I celebrate. And that's not an indictment that no man should be telling our stories.
Yeah.
Tell whatever the hell stories you want to tell. But one thing that journalists and actors in the Malayalam film industry are celebrating right now is the Justice Hema report that has come out.
That's
Have you been
right.
following that?
I mean, everywhere, because all the time we're reading the news about women and how they're treated and their safety and
It's too much.
you know, the hampering of their economic independence and things like that, and it's very depressing. of
Yeah,
course.
and you know, it's when I see names like Rima Kalingal and Parvati Thiruvota and all these names, Gitu Mohandas, put their names to a cause such as this, it gives me like a, you know, that feeling that I got when I first watched Shonali Bose's Amu, that this is the sort of film industry that I was promised as a child, that I'm growing up to become a part of, where women can speak their minds without being
So
told
this is not
to.
at all the case. It's not at all the case. And I mean, I never thought it would be. So maybe I've not been like that in that sense, disappointed, because and like the film set, the film industry is hugely hugely
Yeah.
not just on the lines of women, but
Yeah.
also along the lines of caste and class, and of course gender. It's
Yeah.
hugely problematic, patriarchal, regressive, hierarchical. I mean, even in terms of catering, who is allowed to sit where, who is allowed to eat what, where are the bathrooms, what people get away with. You know, if it's not a very senior actor, like a female person, or even the ADs, how they're treated in terms of, come stand here, their bodies are pushed.
Yeah, like equipment on a set.
Yeah, and it's so small things all the time you're seeing everywhere,
Yeah.
It's very difficult to work in that environment. It's difficult, I mean, it's difficult to witness it, so I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to just go through it.
So how do you find the collaborators around
And
you?
there's so many instances of sexual harassment, which is just some of them haven't even come close to coming
Yeah.
out. There are so many people who are working today,
Around us.
highly respected, hugely problematic.
Yeah. One hopes that the Hema report is going to bring about some sort of change, some conversation. It will travel from Malayalam to Hindi to Bengali, everywhere, all over the country. But then when you've now, at that point where you realize what you want, who you are as a person, and I bet that every day we're realizing something new about ourselves as people. How do you find collaborators then in this industry who you're like, I trust this person, whether it is your AD, whether it is your actors, what is that process like? Putting your teams together of people who will be able to follow the vision that you have. When you're directing and also when you're acting, you're picking the teams that you're acting with.
So direction, I have much more control in that sense, and I work with people who I can hugely trust, and I've not done much directorial work. As an actor, who are you picking? You have no control over anything.
But do you choose ki mujhe, I don't want to be a part of this unit and I don't want to be a part of that unit?
See, I don't know what the unit is going to be like. What I know is hopefully I have a script. It has also happened to me that in a show that people have said, you signed this for 3 seasons, here are the first 2 episodes. I'm like, but please give me the rest.
They've not given you the full show. You don't know where the arc is going, where the character is ending up.
I mean, no, the arc. But even the first 2 episodes, things are going to change.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like these are bad people and all, if they're watching and they know who they are. But, it's just that I have very little control as an actor.
Yeah.
What I have, ideally and hopefully, and not always, is the script. So that at least we can all fall back on that document. I have my instinct for the director, what that director is going to be like, and a little bit for the producer, because I'm not actually interacting a lot with the producer. It's
Right.
often my management team who's figuring, so I don't know what the set is going to be like.
Yeah.
You never know. Yeah, so, some sets are better than others. Most of them are problematic and follow these kind of patterns. You can try little to make your own little changes around you and create a comfortable space as much as possible around you. But
Yeah.
the thing is that as individuals, there's only so much you can do. Even if you keep doing, these are huge systemic changes, and it's a mindset, it's a pattern, it's a way of thinking, which through sensitization, through awareness from an early age, it's a reflection of values. I don't know honestly even how to start addressing this.
One thing that so many people are telling me right now, because I live between Bombay and New York, मैं इधर जाती रहती हूँ, उधर जाती रहती हूँ, तो मैं अब जब इधर आती हूँ ना, बहुत सारे लोग मुझे ये कह रहे हैं कि अभी बजटिंग के इतने इश्यूज चल रहे हैं, पैसे खत्म हो गए हैं, पैसे नहीं है, फिल्में ग्रीन लाइट नहीं हो रही हैं, फिल्में पैसे नहीं बना रही है, बॉक्स ऑफिस से रिटर्न्स नहीं आ रहे हैं, बड़ा मतलब स्ट्रेस चल रहा है इस वक्त बॉम्बे शहर में. डू यू फील दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एज एन एक्टर कि ये पैसे बनाएगी या फिल्म के नहीं बनाएगी, जब आप फिल्म के अंदर काम कर रहे हो या उसके
As
पहले?
an actor?
As an actor.
Not at all.
No, na, you
Not
don't
at
allow
all.
yourself to feel that way.
What can I do?
Yeah.
There's nothing. I can only do my job well.
मैं अच्छे से करूँगी.
मैं तो अच्छे से कर ही लूँगी, because
Yeah.
I'm quite conscientious. I'm fairly conscientious and fairly obedient. But
Yeah.
if they have come to me, they already know that I'm not a massive A-lister who's pulling in the crowds. They know that already. They've chosen me for a reason. So if they've come to me and they want me to do it, now my thing is that I can only do it as well as I can do it. So I have to just focus on that.
But are you feeling the sense that people are afraid that money is drying up for like indies to be produced and funded?
I am getting that feeling a little bit because, you know, over the last year, not just actors but writers, technicians, etc., everybody's saying, "Arey, where are the projects? Nothing's been greenlit. Everything is drying up, etc." There's a lot of conversation like this amongst people I know, my friends, colleagues. This is what I hear from other people, so I do hear this a lot. And also, I think one problem, even though OTTs have been great and so lovely in terms of putting out different kinds of content, etc., and you know, that's wonderful. But also what's happened is that there are not enough OTTs, you know. There are only like 5 or 6 and some of them are merging, you know, there's going and the top people.
Management is changing.
Yeah, mostly men, maybe 1 or 2 women, I don't know, and it's changing. And so in that sense, there's only like 4 buyers.
4 ही option है हमारे पास, हम कहाँ जाएं? But like if you think if there were more women in the top,
and then they also have things they know this is too dark. Or during publicity they'll say don't talk about this. So all this is also, they also want to increase their subscription base. They also want to take big A-listers.
बड़ा झमेला
I don't know, तो
है.
हम क्या करें? So you know what I do now is I try to, like, I am very detached from the industry. What is happening, you know, I really am. I work as an individual. I try to do the work that I find interesting.
Yeah.
I try to do it in the most ethical way that I can and create a comfortable space for myself and my colleagues around me.
Yeah.
And that's all I can
But
do.
these decisions, मेरे को coffee दे दो यार.
हाँ, मैं ना ये ना, this is not my best coffee.
चलेगी मेरे.
So I'll have to
Instant तो नहीं है ना?
Instant तो नहीं है, but ये हुआ नहीं है ठीक से. So I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I don't want you to judge me on this coffee, and I will make you better coffee later. ये हुआ नहीं है.
मैं घर आऊँगी आपकी कॉफी पीने
हाँ,
के लिए
मैं
जब
अच्छे से
आपको
coffee-
समय मिल जाएगा. But नहीं,
Really
मैं
bad. Just
कोंकणा
say
से
it's
चल के
nice,
घर
huh?
जा रही हूँ मैं कॉफी पीने के लिए. No,
नहीं,
it's
नहीं,
very.
I'll have to because this is terrible. Just smile and say it's fine. Yeah.
Add a little like ting to my smile when I do this. But अगर
Because you know, it was too distracting our conversation. हाँ.
I know. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, मैं जज नहीं कर रही हूँ आपको यार. I love coffee and this is great. You see, watch me drink this, watch me finish this. But ये जो decision power making decisions के बारे में अभी आपने बात की कि जो OTT भी चाह रहे हैं, उसमें भी there are men sitting on top. If we had more women in this position also, in the position of like disbursing money to people, we don't have, no.
I don't think it would help.
You don't think so?
I hope it would. I hope it would. And even if it doesn't help, there still should be an equal number of women. Whether it helps or not, there should be.
होने तो चाहिए ना
But
ऊपर.
why I don't think it'll help is a lot of the time these decisions are coming from even higher up. You know, and then, and then sometimes the women also have to stick to the policy of their thing, and so I don't think it's necessarily helping.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is just economics. So what do you do? When OTTs and producers, like back in the day, there were, you know, few big studios and, you know, they controlled a lot of the decision making back in the day. So that also happened. Na? And then, choices are limited.
क्या कर सकते हैं? अच्छा, मुझे आपके उन characters के बारे में बात करनी है where you are playing an angry person for whatever reason, for whatever the backstory is. For instance, Vishal Ji's son's film, Kutte, right? It starts off with you and then it ends with you also, na?
Yes.
It's आसमान, वहाँ से शुरू होती है और आँख भी आप पे ही खत्म होती है आके. How do you approach a character who's angry? Because I don't think you're like a obviously like angry person.
Oh, but I am.
I am too.
Yeah.
I hide it very well. I am mostly always angry.
I don't think I'm being able to hide it, but I'm always trying. The effort is that I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm
Angry young woman.
Yeah, young, angry.
बनाई नहीं कभी हमने.
I'm happy to stick to just angry. What are your pronouns? Angry. I'm saying that.
So how do you approach a character?
I like playing angry characters. I've said this also before. I like playing angry characters, and I think it's because when we, you know, in real life, there is always an effort to not be angry. I mean, unless you just are so triggered or you're just like so stressed or you can't help it.
Outburst हो ही जाता है.
हो ही जाता है कभी-कभी sadly, or you're PMSing, whatever. But you know, so sometimes anger happens, but it's the effort is always to control, suppress, not get angry, judge yourself for getting angry. So there's a lot of like, you know, and I'm also quite dutiful, like, you know, how I should be and all that. It's quite a burden. So it's not like I'm just like, let's give in to this anger. So whenever I get a chance to, as a character, then I really
हाँ,
enjoy.
निकलता है।
Yeah. Then I'm like,
ओहो।
इसमें ही निकाल देंगे सब.
तो बताओ कौन से कैरेक्टर्स में आपको याद है जिसमें आपने निकालो ऐसे एंगर अपना कुत्ते के अलावा? Which was very nice to see you in that part though.
I think in Gili Puchi also there's some anger.
Yeah.
There's some anger. And what's interesting is that anger also, other than just like stress of little things and being overwhelmed, anger also actually comes from grief, I think, and sorrow. And unaddressed and unacknowledged grief can very easily become anger or fear.
Yeah.
Insecurities and fear and that stress can easily become aggressive.
Yeah. It's so hard to allow yourself to feel everything all the time because there is just so much to feel all the time. हमेशा क्योंकि हम like I said फोन पर लगे हुए हैं, फोन बंद कर दिया तो टीवी पर लगे हुए हैं, किताबें तो पढ़ने का टाइम मिलता नहीं, किताबें पढ़ने की वो आदत ही निकल गई है. किताब उठा के मतलब बैठा नहीं जाता मुझसे 10 मिनट किताब उठा के. Instantly buzz करता है फोन and I'm distracted.
I do read, but not as much as I used to. That's
Yeah.
true. You know, we don't allow ourselves time to think, actually. Because constantly, as you say, it's an information overload. So that thinking doesn't happen. And we have to give ourselves and our minds, I think, some time to just, you know, wash out and those thoughts and let them happen.
But do you see that in your son? Now that he's a teenager, like is he also growing up in a different world? He's obviously growing up in a different world that you grew up in. But like so much more technology and so much more bombardment of information.
But
all
and
the
apologies to
time.
Haroon, who doesn't like me speaking about him in interviews.
no,
But
no,
but I just want to say this one
No,
thing.
no,
I'll tell him that, you know, I really admire Haroon, my son, so much because he's really a dreamer. He's an absent-minded person.
Yeah, that's
and
so
he's
sweet.
a lot in his head, which I really admire that. I hope he doesn't lose it.
Sorry, Harun. I know mom saying that you don't like being spoken about. So we will not. I will not push this
We will
topic
move
at all.
on.
I'm going to move on to the next idea. अभी आपने एक इंटरव्यू में कुछ टाइम पहले, अभी not recently, but you said in an interview that if I am supposed to be feminine, I have to learn how to do that. What is that process like? Because I have seen you've done 45 to 50 films now, and it's impossible.
More than 50 for sure.
It's impossible to rewatch everything you've done to prepare for an
He's
interview.
doing most of them are shit. let not shit, but mediocre.
But when I'm prepping for an interview, I like to revisit everything an artist has done. But for an artist of your caliber, it is sort of impossible to revisit everything.
Thanks for saying a few.
But Aja Nachle, I love that film so much.
Yeah.
And you have
We
a
had
beautiful,
the best time shooting it.
sensuous song, Aise Chale Jab Hawa. It's a beautiful song. We were in a sari and doing the Bollywood thing.
Yeah.
That's as Bollywood feminine as it gets. That song, that part. So talk to me about creating that. When you said when you have to go into a process.
But not just that. You know, there are a few films, and because, you know, it is so normalized that we don't realize it's hyperfem. Because the default for women is a hyperfem version of ourselves. Like especially, like lots of hair.
I
You
know.
like a lot of hair. Like in India.
You will see one female character with alopecia for one time. Please show me.
I mean, even if you're not doing alopecia, but sure, why not? But even just regular hair, you will not see because it's voluminous. Like hair is voluminous.
So
and that's
lion's
okay, I guess. And you know, like clothes are also, so it's always you're catering to a notion. You know who said this? I think Margaret Atwood, and I saw this recently on social media about, you know, when a woman is looking at herself in the mirror, there is a man inside her who is looking at that image and judging. Mind-blowing, as they say. So, you know, we are approaching an ideal of what is desirable to probably men. You know, so, and that is a very, that is the hyperfem version of ourselves. Like, I think, at least for me, I don't feel very female all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, just you're sometimes neutral or you're just human or whatever, you know. I don't even remember at home sometimes, you know, your hair is just like up on the side.
You're not always thinking, मैं औरत हूँ, 24 घंटे नहीं चलता है दिमाग में.
नहीं चलता है. And then, and even the way you're dressed or the way you are.
Yeah.
Now, maybe for films you have to do, I don't know, a little more, depends on the kind of film you're doing. But in films, so I have learned that. It's a layer I've put on myself, you know, with the hair, makeup, wardrobe, everything, even the way you're saying your dialogues or your body language, it's that within that, those parameters are there, you know. So in that sense, I had meant, because for Gili Puchi, how I had to not learn, but I had to access the man that was there inside
Androgynous,
me. Yeah.
dressing.
I had that inside me. It's still very much there and it's a part of who I am. And that was also really interesting. So I was just saying that to say that I'm not that hyper femme version of myself that you may see on screen often.
All the time, yeah.
And neither maybe am I fully like how my character Bharti is in Gili Pucci. But so these are layers we are putting on.
I love that in Gili Pucci.
Or even like extracting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I love in Gili Pucci that you never quite know which woman you're sympathizing with in the next scene, the sympathy changes, then in the next scene the sympathy changes again, and that's Neeraj Givan's writing that shines through.
Yeah.
I have to tell you this, Konkona, when I was...
And I think Sandeep Saxena, the writers. They co-wrote, yeah. I hope I've got the name correct, you just check it.
When I was growing up, there was a film that you did with Rani Mukherjee.
Yes.
Which was just so fun for me and my sister. Because we danced around the whole house singing Hum To Aise Hai
Such a
Bhaiya.
lovely song. Badki and Chutki. Lovely song.
Because the girls are like,
it.
this is who we are. Deal with it. We are like this. We will dress the way we are.
Hum to aise hai bhaiya.
Hum to aise hai bhaiya. Deal with it. So I have to tell you that sort of influence you had on me as a child.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I loved that song. I was very nervous because how I loved Rani and I was such a huge fan. And I'd never done the singing and dancing before, and I rehearsed it for weeks.
Yeah.
You know,
माधुरी दीक्षित के साथ डांस कर लिया तो फिर कभी भी कर
But luckily she was not supposed to be a good dancer.
Yeah.
I mean, my character.
In
obviously
Aja
not
Nachle.
hers, yeah.
Do you have any collaborators in the industry you can never say no to? If they come to you like, yes, that's it, end of story. Any writers, directors, actors?
Nothing that I'm aware of like that.
No.
I mean, there are people I like and I would go out of my way to work with them. And there are some people who I don't like as much and I'm happy if other things get in the way. Because it's hard to sometimes just say no.
By the way, this coffee is really nice.
It will be much better when you come over
This is
for a
not
cup.
bad at all. आपने अपनी मॉम के बारे में एक बात बोली थी इंटरव्यू में that stayed with me that she taught you empathy for your characters. कि अगर आप अपने
I know what you're talking about.
किरदार को पसंद ना भी करें तो उससे empathize करना जरूरी है.
Yeah.
What is that like for you?
No, because the context of this is my first film which I did when I was still in college between my second and third year. It was a Bengali film where I'm playing a teenage psychotic person who almost kills someone.
Yeah.
And just behaving always a little extra and like hypersexual types, you know. So I was very judgmental about my character. I was just like, my God, so embarrassing, so cringe. Why is she behaving like this? And just, I think I was not comfortable with my own body, with my own sexuality. So I couldn't bear it that this character who's using my body is just behaving like this, you know.
How can I allow this?
Yeah, like, why is she doing this?
Yeah.
Just stop it, you know, have some dignity or whatever. You know, I was not liking it at all. And my mom was very helpful at that time because I was also very young then. I must have been like 20 or something. And this is my first film before Mr. Messiah and all. And she had said, you know, if very kindly she had told me that please don't be so judgmental. She said, you know, she's very young. She doesn't have, my character, she doesn't have any other armor in her arsenal and she's using what she has. And if you can see her poor thing, like what can she doesn't know, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So it took some time, but that was the beginning of that. And I think that if I had read a character like that, I would have been more empathetic. But I think my resistance to it was because that it is my physicality that is doing this, which me and my real body would not do that. This was my discomfort. So to reconcile that and to bridge that was the empathy, which really helped.
And then do you bring that with you in every character now? That lesson?
Yeah, it's become much easier. I think that now it's a certain comfort with my own self, you know, which develops as you become older.
Yeah.
That happened. And I think it was always there, but there was a lot of... and that character is also really out there and negative and psychotic and sexual, you know. So I was just like, God. Yeah, and I've not played a character like that again. So I've not really had to deal with it.
मुझे एक बार स्वास्तिका मुखर्जी ने झाप लगाई थी because I was talking to her about Kala, Anvita's film. And I liked the film, so we were doing a post-release interview of the characters and breaking it down. And I was like, you know, she's a very cruel mother and she doesn't treat her daughter well. She's like, you are judging the character. Get into the character's shoes and then tell me, why is she cruel? She is one lady who has no support and she's grown up. And I was like, point.
True. Very good
Fact.
point. Yeah.
And I was like, Swastika Mukherjee मुझे डांट रही है तो मैं सुन भी लूँगी कोई बात नहीं. She wasn't डांटोing, she was being very nice.
No, and it's very sensible what she said.
Very sensible what she said. We've talked about women telling women's stories, and in the last a season of this show that Varun Grover was hosting, two of your directors were guests, Shonali and Alankrita.
Oh, lovely.
And you know, they write such wonderful characters and stories,
Yeah,
and
love.
just well-rounded women themselves and well-rounded writing that they do. But do you think like it's an unfair onus on women writers to present women in their stories in like a certain way? Like why should women should always have this burden of being like,
I agree with you that it is an unfair responsibility. It is also up to us how much we want to take it. Like for example, when I was writing Death in the Gunj, I was asked by a few people that why is your protagonist male? And women asked me this, and women were feeling betrayed that my protagonist is male. But I was like, you know, let women write about whatever they want to write about.
Correct.
First.
yeah.
Men are writing about women all the time, you're not saying. Or whether you're saying or not. Now, I want to write about this man. If the problem we're dealing with is masculinity or patriarchy, and the problem is arising, you know, like from that, then why cannot we address it with men? Why must I be limited? Why are you limiting my choices? Why, just because I'm female, why must I only have a female protagonist? This I find limiting, you know, to begin with. And see, so I don't think that women should take it on, you know. So I was like, when I came across this, I was like, you know, it's my choice, don't limit my choices. I want to use this to bring out a certain concept. Of course, when you're writing, you're not so aware of themes and concepts because they also emerge and reveal themselves to you, you know, in that sense.
But then are you almost writing gender neutrally then? Just thinking of the themes and the concepts you want to address and then sort of subconsciously
No,
not even
I'm never
thinking
thinking of the themes and the concepts.
Achha.
I didn't know the themes and the concepts of Death in the Gunj when I was writing it.
Oh!
I didn't know. I was not like कि मुझे लिखना है about toxic masculinity.
It
वो तो बाद में
emerged.
it emerged. But what I knew is that, I mean, maybe I didn't have words for these things at the time. I was writing about these characters in a particular place, in a particular time, how I imagined them and how I felt they would behave with each other in real and interesting and ways that are not really addressed or spoken of. When somebody like Shuntu is not behaving at peak masculinity, the discomfort it is causing around him.
The men around him.
The men and the women.
Women also.
Maybe women little
His
less, but
auntie also
it's causing discomfort.
Yeah.
Because then to extrapolate it is that we are not comfortable when people are not behaving in ways that are expected of them because they are in certain, you know, patterns of behavior, and if they don't stick to it, everybody's off script, then what will we do? You know, so there's certain
so
fear.
good in that film.
She's so good. I'm so happy
heartbreakingly
that she
good.
agreed to do that.
So good. I think it's a perfect film. I have watched it and rewatched it, and when it came out, I wasn't reviewing very regularly. I think I was like 5 or 6 months into my career as a film critic, so I never got to review it officially. But I think it's a near perfect film.
That's very kind of you. I can only tell you so many flaws, but let's not.
मेरे ओपिनियन में. But आपने कभी खुद को सोचा एक्टिंग भी करूं, डायरेक्ट भी करूं अपने आप को?
एक साथ?
अजय देवगन जैसे करते हैं.
नहीं, बहुत लोग किए हैं.
How many of your co-stars? But like you feel like
best not to add so much stress into.
कैसे होएगा?
Already I'm not being able to deal with my regular life, you know. So I better not to take that on. You know, I feel like, and people have suggested it a couple of times, especially sometimes when you don't have the money to pay an actor.
खुद ही कर लो.
हाँ, ये आप कर लो ना,
पैसे
ये
बच
जल्दी
जाएंगे.
से. Like I've done the voice in Mirror.
Yeah.
Last Stories too, because I was the quickest, cheapest resource.
I hired
to do
your
that.
mother to do Death in the Gunj voice.
Yeah. Again, quickest, cheapest, because I know exactly what has to be done. I'm sitting there at the edit. We are only devising what has to be done. I'm only there.
Yeah.
You know, ना किसी को बुलाओ, उसका सब करो, उसको explain करो, मतलब. And it was just a voice, so it was okay. But I don't know about acting. I'm not saying no. If I had to, I would. But I think it would be tough.
I don't understand how people do it.
My mom has done it in Paroma.
Act भी कर रहे हो और भाग के फिर.
She's done it in Paromita Ragdin, a fantastic Bengali film she's directed. She's played one of the protagonists and directed herself also.
I don't understand how it's.
I think that level of experience.
वो अलग ही
expertise,
क्राफ्ट है,
हाँ.
अलग ही लेवल है. लास्टली एक सवाल जो मैं सबसे पूछ रही हूँ जो मेरे गेस्ट हैं, एक इंटीमेसी कोऑर्डिनेटर का जो कॉन्सेप्ट अब फाइनली मेन स्ट्रीम में आने लगा है. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट हैविंग इंटीमेसी कोऑर्डिनेटर्स ऑन सेट्स, व्हिच इज सो नाइस. एंड यू नो राघव जोयाल, who just has done this amazing film Kill. I don't know if you've managed to watch it.
No, because I wasn't in town, but I've just been hearing fantastic things. I have to see it.
He's so good in the film, and he plays this guy you cannot have empathy with because he's this murderous gunda. So he said to me ki, you know, having an intimacy coordinator is not a demand, it's my right as an actor to have somebody if I'm feeling uncomfortable to sort of maneuver that set for me. And these people, an intimacy coordinator is trained in the job. They know what they're doing, and then they come on set. In a similar vein, there's another concept of a gender sensitivity coach who is not on set, but is available to the writer and the director when they want during the writing phase. This person has studied, humanity and people and things like that. Do you think something like that could be helpful in the larger scheme of things?
Actually, this should be taught in schools. It is helpful, I think, gender sensitization.
Yeah.
Because these are values which, if they're not coming from the home and from yourself intrinsically, then you have to be taught.
Yeah, no?
Yeah. So I've never worked with an intimacy coordinator myself because obviously, it's a newer thing.
It's a newer thing.
And I've been lucky with the people that I've been working with who have a certain sensitivity, and I'm also at a stage where I can also say what I'm okay with or what I'm not. But it's a useful thing to have, and ideally it would be great if people actually had that intrinsically from within.
Yeah.
And I really think that gender sensitivity, and not just gender, but even in terms of like awareness, caste awareness and these kind of things, I really think they should be taught in schools.
Yeah. And these conversations need to happen.
Schools, offices, there should be like workshops, because this kind of a problem which manifests in all these so much violence, there has to be a multi-pronged approach to the solution.
Yeah. I too felt like I spent like 7 or 8 years of my life just unlearning so much stuff that I learned growing up in Delhi in my school of like rich kids, and I was not a rich kid, and I was like always scared of everyone and observing how people behave. And then when I started my life as a person, I spent like 6 or 7 years just unlearning all of that and seeing that क्या हमको नहीं सिखाते ये सारी चीजें स्कूलों में यार.
Yeah, but that capability which you may have had, not everybody does.
Yeah.
To unlearn, to become aware, to educate yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is work.
It's a lot of
it's
work.
actually interesting.
Yeah.
And broadening. But
I've enjoyed it.
yeah.
I bring it to my work every day.
Yeah.
I bring
And
it to what
thank
I
you.
do
Thank
every
you for
day.
that.
Thank you for your time today. Thank you for
Not
coffee.
At all. You've relaxed me.
And a fursat. I hope this wasn't too painful.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just very disappointed in myself that I've not been able to give you the kind of coffee that you deserve and that I can make.
So I'll have to come home.
Yeah.
Please, this is for you. You should
Thank
keep
you.
this so
I'm
you'll
so
remember.
Happy.
It blew my mind when I found it yesterday, and the fact that he's mentioned you by name in the first line, I thought that was so special and so sweet.
I'll read it properly at home and cry.
Thank you, Konkona. This was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely.